All right, so I'm Mark, and this is Coach Rob Humburg, and we're going to talk a little bit about some stuff that stuff that you've worked with for a long time. But go ahead and where you're from, coaching background, what you've done over your career.
Okay, well, it started when I was in college. I got to go to a tryout with the Gamblers back in 1983, and there was 500 people there, and I got to meet one guy, Scott Bauscher. We became good friends, and they only took 12 people, and I made the team.
Oh,
First,
well, congratulations.
thank you. And then I got hurt. The first game, I intercepted Rick Neuhauser and came down, and I tore ACL, MCL, and RCL all in one shot.
Oh, so what you're saying is really you weren't a good pick. They should have taken someone else.
Yeah, they should have picked
someone more durable.
But that's all right. And then from there, I wandered around, didn't know direction to go. And then I got a hold of a man by the name of John Weeks. He took me under his wing. He started teaching me how to coach. And at first, I was nothing but what you call a gotcha coach. And basically what a gotcha coach is, whatever the coaches wanted, you went and got it. So it didn't get actually into the game planning and all that. But then the following year, I started getting into more of it. I coached O-line and was an O-line assistant. And that was for Shippensburg College. And then John went from there. He taught me about the offensive systems. He taught me about the offensive terminology that's used now, not only in college, but NFL, and semi-pro has it now. So a lot of terminology has changed. And it really changed when Belichick come in with the Erhardt-Perkins system. That brought New England no Super Bowls. That's the offensive system they use for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so go ahead and what's your history with the system, and also maybe I've read maybe two articles, pretty large chapter, almost like a 3-chapter part of a book, and 2 or 3 articles. So maybe start with what you see as the key parts of the offense, what you've learned, how someone could either learn it or ingest it or also integrate it into what they do already.
The main thing that I've learned about, because that's all the offensive system, that's the only thing I use whenever I was an OC. The way the system works is it is so easy. It's past concepts. So, for example, let's take ghost tosser, which is the most famous concept out there. Mm-hmm. Now, ghost concept is a go route on the outside receiver, and on the inside receiver, it's a 10-yard out, hence ghost. Mm-hmm. So everything was pretty well named for that. And then the best part about the system is that if you call ghost tosser is 2 slants. One's a 3-yard slant. The other one is a 7-yard slant. Okay, for the outside receiver, he does a 7-yard slant. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing about this is, let's say that the defense is lined up and you cannot, the play won't work. Okay, they've got it pretty well. Let's see here. Let me do that. So, all right. So ghost tosser won't work. Okay, because they clogged up the right side where ghost is. They've got everybody situated over there. They've got a one-on-one with a deep safety over on the tosser side. So what can happen is we can flip that just by saying a keyword, Florida, whatever you want to call the flip. And that was what's so good about this, is we could flip the play over onto the other side. So we could have tosser ghost instead of ghost tosser. Or if we saw that Tosser wasn't going to work, but Ghost was going to actually pull that safety. We could probably call another one, and we would probably call it Reel. And what Reel is, it's a return route on the inside or the outside, and then the inside receiver does what's called a slant and go or sluggo.
Yep.
Okay, so he's going to do a slant and go. And on the inside with the return route, that's going to put the linebacker in place. So we could switch concepts right from the line because the defense ain't going to know what's going on. So we could even, holler out false ones. But within, you have keywords when you want to switch. Okay. So when you come up the line, cadence is very important. A lot of people put the cadence that's not very important, but that is your key to your offense, your cadence, because that tells either it's a live play or it's a dead play.
Okay.
So that's kind of, but let's say in the Super Bowl, and I think it was 4th and 9, or 3rd and 9, I'm sorry. And Brady went back, changed his mind, and he called it at the line. And they scored that touchdown that put them ahead against, I forgot who it was now. I'm having brain farts today, so you have to excuse me. But they scored a touchdown on it because he changed the concept to the right side and left the other left side the same. And what happened was that safety bit on that slant coming to the post coming out. And as soon as he bit on that, bam, Brady hit, I can't think of his name, like I said, but he hit him for the touchdown. And it was all because he got up there and he could change the play without having to say a whole bunch of words. It was just a one-word concept, boom, changed, gone.
All right. So let's say I'm in a position where I want to start learning the words, the concepts that are already existing. Let's say what I would say is like the classic system.
Okay.
Where would you go to? Are there people you would say, hey, go talk to this person? They're always willing to. Or, obviously we'll send people probably your way who are interested on somewhat of a clinic for it. But what are kind of the resources or the people that you would say, hey, go watch this film, go talk to these people?
Victory is probably one of the best websites to go to. They have a lot of information there.
Okay.
But the thing about it, if you have an offense, you want to make it your own. Don't try and be, I'm going to be the San Francisco 49ers, or I'm going to be the Philadelphia Eagles, or I'm going to be Alabama. Make the offense yours. Understand everything about your offense. Don't go up there and pretend that you know it. And then you have to go back to your papers and go, I was supposed to do it this way. Know your offense when you implement it.
And you had mentioned kind of how you took the system and made it your own previously, not just as advice. What would you say you changed or how you kind of molded the system to fit, maybe your thinking or your needs or your team?
The thing that I changed mostly was not the passing concepts. I left them pretty much alone, but it was the run concepts. And I changed it to the outside zone. I changed it to duo. And then when I tried the outside zone with duo, it wasn't working. So I went to a stretch offense. So we would stretch instead of having the outside zone. And basically, I love 2 tight ends. That's my favorite offense, because with 2 tight ends, you can not only have a good passing game, but you have an excellent running game because they're your fullbacks. So if we're doing a stretch, let's say stretch left, and we're coming out of, let's go with pistol. Okay. So we're going out of pistol stretch right. Okay. So what will happen is you're going to use what's called tags. So that those tags are going to tell the tight ends or whoever that they have to, what their job will be. So basically, if you have one tight end in there, you're going to say, let's go pistol, stretch left, H, and then you give him a tag, and then you say H left. So now that tight end knows he's going to be blocking, and he's going to be the lead blocker out left. So he's going to go ahead and make that come clear across. He's going to go in motion, and he's going to come across, and he's leading the blocks.
Right,
So
kind of like a wing the lead, but as a tight end.
Yeah.
Okay. So usually when tight ends get brought up with anybody I talk with, well, there's two things, I guess. One is probably going to have to do with your background, but the first one, they're combined. They're very similar. The one advice that someone kind of brought up to my attention one season we had two very good tight ends, and it was like, this is magical, right? Like, get to run a lot of two tight ends. So it was very fun. That's not always the case for most teams. And what they said to me after I said, well, this next year we don't have that, they said, well, you're looking for tight end bodies. You're looking for guys who are prototypical tight ends, and you're not saying to yourself, who are good athletes that can be at this place, right? Because you have wide receivers that maybe they're not huge guys, but they can block, they can handle, being a lead in certain situations. They're maybe not the best option for that. So one, I think that was good advice, and maybe you can give your opinion on that. And two, where were you at historically over your career, and were you able to find true tight ends?
Actually, I found 3 tight ends at one time once. Basically, you're looking for guys that are athletic, that they can run, they can block, and it's hard to find. And especially like in the lower league, semi-pro, you're not going to find 2 really good tight ends. You're just not. I mean, if you do it, you're very fortunate. So you make do with your best athlete, and he may not be the fastest, he may not be the smartest, but he's a body. And that's the main thing you're looking for, is the body that he can pull out. And most defensive ends are that athletic, so you can use a defensive end. I mean, because they're fast, they got to be quick to get off the line and get around that tackle. So I've used defensive ends. I've even used fullbacks as tight ends. So, I mean, it's just depending on the players you have. The higher up you go, like in college, you're always going to have tight ends. It's just known fact. Same way with the NFL. The UFL is now using double tight ends. I've noticed that when I watched the last game with here we go again with the brain thing here. But I seen they did something different. They put the tight end in the backfield instead of on the line. So what they did was they had him go in motion out of the backfield and then lead the running back around, which saves time for a tight end to go in motion.
Right. Okay. I got you. Put him in motion where he would need to be instead of being as a tight end going in motion. Would you say, and maybe this has changed a little bit, and I haven't watched as much ball in the last few years, at least sometimes when you're in high school, you're burnt out of watching high school film by the end of the season. Would you say tight ends are underutilized in college and maybe any level right now?
They're very unutilized. I mean, here's a good example. Pittsburgh, Freiermuth, and Washington. 2 awesome tight ends. Were very not even, I mean, Washington was used, but where was Freiermuth? I mean, if you got 2 good tight ends like that, utilize them. In high school, you may find 2 tight ends. If you do, you're lucky. Usually the kids don't want to play tight end. They want to be wide receiver, running back, or quarterback. So, but if you have two tight ends like Pittsburgh had, their offense could have been totally off the charts. I mean, I was actually crying when I watched some of their games because underneath was wide open all the time. All the time. And those tight ends could have taken advantage of it. So that's the main thing. You don't want tight ends that are going to stretch a defense. What you want them to do is make the defense come to them. Then you can stretch the defense with your wide receivers. So now, it puts the defense in a bind. Do I cover the tight ends? Do I, fall back and cover the wide receivers? And most times that defense falls back to cover the wide receivers, leaving the tight ends open.
Right. Let's see. We talked briefly on adjusting the system, working in your system to kind of meet what you would say is like, hey, I did something with tight ends to kind of open up the run game. Now, obviously, with the system, the Erhardt system, you still use the same calls, right? You still use ghost and tosser for where those guys are. Do you think that the spacing made changes, problems, kept it as easy as it was?
When I installed my offense, I always stressed spacing. Okay, I wanted my wide receiver, my Z on the left side, I wanted him as close to the 50 marker as he could get. And then I wanted the inside slot receiver at least 10 yards in from him. Okay. Because that gives you the spacing you need. Because you don't want them so close that they run into each other.
Right.
And you see that in high school. You see wide receivers run into each other. It's because of the spacing. And a lot of coaches don't stress spacing enough. Even 7 yards away from each other is tight. Because sometimes you may do a twist where you have the inside receiver doing an out route, or you have him doing a curl, and the other receiver is coming to the inside on a post or a flag route, and they run into each other. Not good. So you got to have that spacing.
Yeah. No, it's not great when you look up and there's 3 wide receivers in the same spot. That's kind of what you see as a high school problem.
Yes.
Kind of depending on the group and the communication too, a little bit, and the time in the season, because early in the season you see that stuff. In using 2 tight ends, the way you just described it made me think, okay, very often you had them on opposite sides.
Right.
So that was very often the case for you, was kind of like ace, as some people might describe it.
Right.
Okay.
But sometimes we would slide him over to the other side, have him out as a wing behind the other tight end. And then from here, everybody's thinking, okay, so this is going to be a run. And we would actually do a screen to the opposite side. Okay. And we would have the guard pulling.
I love an inside tight end screen. To me, that's beautiful, and everybody should do that.
Yes.
Let's go back to, and again, primarily my experiences with high school, and I think for most people, when they're really looking to understand something, that the basics start in high school, regardless of what level you end up at. How would you go about training tight ends that might be different than maybe what is stereotypical right now in high school, or what you might expect to see across the board?
Tight end training is a little bit different for each individual. It's depending on their talent, and also depending on how smart they are, because you got some tight ends out there that you wonder if they even went.
That's interesting. That's a good point.
So, it depends on how motivated they are as a tight end, because some tight ends just like, okay, I'm going to block. That's all I'm going to do. And they get into that mindset. And then when a pass does come their way, they drop it. And you see that even in the NFL. I mean, these tight ends have to be aware that, yeah, you're going to block, but you're also going to be able to catch the pass. And you got to be ready for it at all times. Because they could be check downs. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
not used to trying to find space towards the end of a passing play and be in the quarterback's vision kind of thing there.
Yes.
That takes some training. Yeah.
Yes.
So what I've historically seen, and I think this is probably true for a lot of coaches out there, is, and maybe this isn't the case based on kind of how you said that last piece there. Well, one, I think it's actually really smart to mention the intelligence level of a tight end because they are asked to do a lot. Not only are you looking for the physical tools, I hadn't considered that in the past, but that's a very good point. Like, you have to be intimately familiar with both the run and pass game, and probably you can't say that about many other positions on the field aside from quarterback. Anytime you're in chalk talk, if you ask a wide receiver, come up and, draw our outside zone, it's, hey guys, we have one rule here, and you all you know is you go stock block someone. So I think that's actually very useful advice. What I've seen is, hey, we tell a kid he's a tight end and he thinks that he practices with the wide receivers and that the blocking indie time is just for fun, or just maybe not fun, but you know what I mean.
No.
What are your thoughts there?
That's why you have tight end coaches. And a lot of people, they don't give the tight end coaches enough credit because they're the ones that mold that tight end. That's the best way to describe it, is you're molding that tight end to be aware not only of the run game, the passing game, but other assignments that he may have. Okay, so he may be double teamed, with a tackle, or he may be double teaming with a guard. He's got to understand how to do that. So that boils down to footwork. And if he doesn't have good footwork, he's not
helping out in that position at that point, right? Like, if you're in pass protection, you've never done it, you're not.
Yeah.
You might as well be on the sideline in some cases.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so keys to being a tight end coach. Give me as many, maybe top 3 or whatever comes to your head of key things to do or know as a tight end coach.
Be aware. Number 1, be aware. Always. Awareness is number 1. You have to be aware of what your assignment is. You have to be aware of how the defense is lining up. And you also have to be aware of who is maybe blitzing, because maybe the tackle has another assignment. Your assignment is to take that linebacker. So always be aware. That's number 1. Number 2 is always be talking to the tackle or be talking to the quarterback, whatever. You need to know the offense in and out, because you never know when you may need to be somewhere as a check down or whatever, or you may need to come back and do pass protection like out of a running back set. So those 2 things are important. And third thing, practice footwork, handwork, and catching. Those 3 things you got to know.
In the situations I've been in as a coach, you're given kind of 2 options as a tight end coach. It's kind of like, well, do I want to work on being with the O-line today or being with the passing group today? How would you handle that? Because in my opinion, as someone who's generally coached the offensive line, I would just go and say, look, go be with the O-line. It's a much harder thing to do. Now, that being said, it's because I don't spend time a lot of times coaching wide receivers or working on their spacing, their footwork, getting off the line, right? And so in my opinion, it's like, this is hard. Go do this hard thing, whereas this is run your route, catch the ball thing.
Right. Basically, what I always did was we had 3 practices a week, usually. So for the first practice, I would have him with the O-line, understanding how the O-line is blocking, what their assignments are, And then the second practice, I would have him doing footwork. He would actually be that's all he would be doing, is understanding the footwork for not only getting off the line, but also helping the O-line block. And then the third practice, I would have him in catching passes from every different angle. So I would have him running outs, ins. I would have him running curls, hitches, even over the shoulder passes. And the way we did the over shoulder passes, we would have the quarterback lined up with him. They're in a straight line, and I'd have that tight end running out, and he'd have to have his head up looking for the ball. And as soon as he saw the ball coming down, then he'd put his hands out. I don't want him reaching. I want him to just to catch it. Because if you're up here reaching, what's going to happen? That DB or whoever's guarding him, the linebacker, they're going to block that pass. They're going to knock it down. They know that's coming. I don't want them to know it's coming until it's the last second. And that's what I teach wide receivers.
All right. So last one is, I think there's a lot of teams, and then this is just kind of stereotypical, and I think this is maybe part of it is these are the same people I talk to all the time, but there's a lot of teams, not just across high school, but everywhere, with doubles, trips, guys wide out, 5 empty. Let's say someone's like, hey, I really want to do this stuff. I understand the idea that I can find athletes and not just guys that look like tight ends. I understand that this is something I can do and the value of it now. What would you say is, here's how I would start transitioning into this to have it as, maybe they wanted to be 10% of their offense where they add 2 tight ends, whereas now it's no tight ends. What advice would you give there?
The best advice, listen to the coaches. If you listen to the coaches, you'll learn more from your coaches than what you will try to figure out on your own or from other players. So if the coach is telling you, hey, I want you here at this spot, then be there. Mm-hmm. So like you were saying, let's say we come out with doubles, okay? And we want the tight end not tight against the tackle. We want him like a couple yards away from the tackle, because his assignment is to flipper block that linebacker that may be blitzing, or he's trying to cover him. If he flipper blocks him, it's not pass interference or anything. It's just a quick elbow, boom, and he goes into his route. So he's got to understand how to do that.
Mm-hmm. So say I'm a coach and I'm like, hey, I want to implement this stuff. And it's not something I've had before. What advice would you give to the coach?
Coaches never stop learning. Number one rule.
Good ones.
So basically, if something comes up new that you're not familiar with as a coach, you need study. Study. Look, watch film, read whatever you need to do, ask questions, constantly ask questions. There's no stupid question. There isn't. And I hear a lot of OCs say, well, you should know that. No, he's asking you, you should tell him, because he's asking a question. Don't be rude, and say, well, you're supposed to know that. No, we all learn. Even I still learn today. I learned something new every time I went to practice. I always learned something new. I was like, wow, okay, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, anything else you want to add? Any thoughts that didn't get tossed in there?
Yeah. Young coaches, get with older coaches that know what they're doing, and just be a mentor. Just let them teach you everything they know. Mm-hmm. Don't think you know it. Don't grab a book and say, well, I'm going to do what this book says. No, listen to live people, live coaches.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks, Coach.